Welcome to Plastic Model Mojo, a podcast dedicated to scale modeling, as well as the news and events around the hobby, where we hope to be informative and entertaining and help you keep your modeling mojo alive.
All right, Dave, we are back for another episode of Plastic Model Mojo.
Not only are we back, but model shows are back.
This is pretty amazing. It's almost surreal. I mean, everybody's pretty much masked up, but everybody's playing by the rules for the most part. I'd ask you what's up in your model sphere, but I think we know what's up in both our model spheres. We are recording on location at the 2021 Roscoe Turner IPMS Invitational and Swap Meet, and it is booming in here.
Yes, it is. I don't know how much the listeners can hear in the background, but this place is crowded, and man, I'm telling you what, I knew I missed this a lot. I don't think I realized how much I missed this.
Well, were you doing anything else before the show, or was it all show prep for you this week?
Most of this week has been show prep. I've done a little bit of reorganizing in the model room because I hit critical mess. So I did get in a little straightening and reorganizing, but most of this has been preparation for coming up here today.
Same for me. That's about all I got done. So our model sphere this week is getting ready for this remote broadcast, and we got all our equipment together, and hopefully this is going to sound okay.
Yeah, this is the first time we've used this equipment, which, by the way, I want to thank the listeners who've donated money because it is what allowed us to see, we have people coming by live like Alex Restrepo, who has donated, and his donation, among others, has allowed us to buy this remote rig so that we can actually take this to a show and record. So, Mike, what's your modeling fluid today?
Well, today, being it's early and we're at a IPMS sanctioned event, it is a red can of Coca-Cola. What about you, my friend?
It's a green can of Sprite. I'm afraid that, again, 10:30 in the morning at a model show on a Saturday, a little bit earlier for the modeling fluid, but we'll make that up later.
I think so. That's going to be interesting.
Yes,
so we'll figure that out. Well, we got a little bit of listener mail in the last couple of weeks.
All right.
First up is Franklin Smallwood, and no geography there. And Franklin must work for some modeling fluid distributor, because he sent the picture of a back end of a truck delivering cases of various liquors and beers, looks like. And
it sounds like a man we need to get to know better.
I think so. So he says he's enjoying the show, driving around doing his job. So a good thing, but he thinks he might pull out a little Russian standard vodka when he hits his bench a little later.
All right. Good choice. Good choice.
Next up from Toronto, Canada is Stepan Velichko. And last week somebody was asking if we knew of a sequential build type YouTube channel that dealt with aircraft.
Yeah.
Well, Stepan has stepped up and said his YouTube channel, Vilka Models, does sequential builds in 1/48 and 1/72 scale. And he's got 2 full builds up and working on a third right now. So he says he's also got a Facebook and Instagram page. Wanted us to mention that. So the listener who asked about the sequential build YouTube channels would have something to go look at. So Stepan, we thank you for that.
Yes, and we'll have to link his YouTube channel in the show notes.
Your buddy John Vickus.
All right.
Now he's in the Mosquito build.
He is indeed.
And where's he from?
He was part of the gang up in Cleveland that has now spread across the country. John's relocated to Salt Lake City.
Okay. Well, that's out there where the couple of the Posse guys are from.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, he says he likes the podcast a lot, and we certainly influenced his modeling, but not necessarily in a good direction. And he sends a picture of his latest purchase.
What did he buy? Oh, my. Bullet.
Yeah, a bottle of Bullet. So, John, I wish I had that bottle right now.
Yes.
Well, maybe in a couple hours.
Yeah, I was going to say there might be. So Vicus is going to enjoy that bullet, man.
I think so.
Yeah.
Give you some slack on the cable there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. By the way, this is just for the listeners. This is a little bit interesting because Mike and I have never recorded this podcast in the presence of each other. We've always done it remotely.
That's right. So this is a learning experience. So
Yes,
we'll
it
see
is.
how it goes.
Yep.
Well, next we got Michael Aluzzi from the Polish Coast Watchers chapter, IPMS. And basically he tagged us onto an email that was going to Babla Massaro, straightening out their names on their trophy packages. But he did plug the show because they've actually got a new listener that came to them because of our podcast.
That's great news. That is one of the things we wanted to accomplish with this podcast is we know there are a lot of modelers out there who model who aren't involved in any sort of group. And if by listening to us, you can get hooked up with a local club, that's great.
All right. Leo Posner's back from Philadelphia.
Uh-huh.
And he raises an interesting point that we were talking about weathering a while back.
Yeah.
And the main point of his listener mail is the one drawback to weathering is that there's a fine line between making it look good and overdoing it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, weathering, we're trying to simulate weathering on the real thing. But if you make something look exactly like it looks on the real thing, it doesn't look right. There has to be some artistic license to play with the look to give the impression. Uh-oh, we're getting photographed now. That's all right. It's Inch. We'll get him back later.
Okay, cool. Well, that's, on my my anti-tank gun. I was trying to keep it to not overdo the chipping, but we'll get to that later.
All right.
John Paisano writes again, and I forwarded you his email. He was asking about the name Dave Crinaldo.
I sent him, it's Diego Quinano. And I actually responded to his email and sent him a link to one of the books in the series that I was talking about.
And what is the...
It's the Encyclopedia of Aircraft Modeling Techniques or something like that.
it's aircraft. My question was, what was the genre?
It's a series of 5 books that cover aircraft modeling from beginning to end. And it's a lot of modeling books that are try and teach you techniques and all are really interesting to look at, but they're kind of pretty picture books. But his series, I swear that every page I actually learned something.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was well worth. It's not a cheap series. If you buy the whole set, it's like $200, but it is well worth the money.
He also mentions that he would like to contribute and support the podcast through PayPal. Is it possible to do so? If so, please let me know how. Other listeners may appreciate this information as well. John, you must have fallen asleep by the time we get to that part.
Go ahead. Just tell him now.
We'll get to that at the end. No, we've straightened it out. I was going to make a joke about him not making it to the end of the podcast. A little self-deprecation there. But yes, at the upper right-hand corner of the www.plasticmodelmojo website, there's a heart icon you can use to go direct to a PayPal contribution, and we'll make sure we mention that at the end of the show as well.
You know why he doesn't make it to the end of the podcast? You have such dulcet tones that as he's listening to the podcast while he's falling asleep, you put him to sleep before he gets to the end.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Well, he's got another interesting question.
All right.
He wants to know how to put the spinner spiral on a 72nd scale Focke-Wulf 190.
Oh, man. That's a great question. I don't build much World War II Luftwaffe stuff. There are several guides out there for it. I think Roy Sutherland at Barracuda Cows may have one. There are also, by the way, decals for that purpose that are actually printed such that when you lay them down, you can actually lay down the spiral.
Well, that'd be the way I'd try it.
Yes, me too. If I was going to do it instead of there are these guys who mask it and do all sorts of stuff. I'm going to go with the decal, and I'm going to make it work.
I want to say it was Plasmo I saw paint one by hand that actually turned out looking pretty darn good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are guys, especially guys who specialize in Luftwaffe aircraft, who can do that. And, man, I admire that skill.
Well, thank you, Joe. And where'd it go? Oh, his beverage of choice is an old-fashioned made with Burnham small batch whiskey.
You know what? Old fashions are really making a comeback.
Well, I think so because I missed it. Leo Posner also said he likes a bullet old fashioned. So,
yeah,
it's 2 old fashions in one
episode.
One episode. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Chris Bryan, he wants to know if we do product reviews, and I don't think we have. Not in the formal sense, anyway.
No, we haven't in the formal sense, but I will tell you, and it'll come up later when I pick up something new. Like I've mentioned in the past, the AK pencils that I got and have been very impressed with the AK watercolor pencils for weathering. So when we do encounter something that's useful, we don't do formal reviews, but if I run into something that's useful to me, I'm going to sing its praises, and I'll tell you. And I'm a big fan of those AK watercolor pencils. So, and I know Mike has talked about he used the thinner line circle cutter.
Yep, I've done that as well.
And both of those are great products.
Okay. Well, so to answer Chris's question, no, we've not done formal product reviews, but I've got to ask. That's kind of a two veins. He could be asking that question. Do we do them so we can go back and see the ones we've done, or has he got something he wants us to review?
Yeah, if you've got something you want us to review or something that you're curious about, it's possible that Mike or I have actually used the product or built the kit or whatever. And if you send in an email, we'll be happy to tell you our experience with it.
And finally is Mark Medwell from Australia. And he's liking the podcast, especially the Squirrel and Rabbit Hole episodes. I think that touched a nerve with a lot of people.
I do too.
He wants to talk a little bit about, I guess we mentioned, what was it? Somebody had written in about getting to the bench and doing a little bit of work every day.
Yeah, I remember that. We were talking about that, and somebody did say that they scheduled time every day. I wish I could do that, but unfortunately, given my job and given the fact that I have 2 teenage daughters, it just doesn't work out. Now, there are some weeks where I'll get to the bench 4 and 5 nights, and then I'll have a week where I don't get to the bench, but maybe once in a week. And that does suck a little bit of your modeling mojo, because if you get on a roll, you keep wanting. You want to build success on success. So if you're modeling and really on a hot streak and fired up, like you were when you were chipping the gun shield on that Zis, it's a real mojo breaker to not be able to follow up on that.
Well, he makes a point here. I would think getting to the bench a little every day is a good idea, with the caveat or working from the assumption that you have the right mindset to do work that day. Because that's his point. He says it doesn't work for him because if he doesn't feel like doing it, it becomes work.
Yes.
And it results in rushing it and a that'll do attitude, and it just doesn't get his best work done. So we've mentioned before some of those get up and walk away nights.
Yes.
And I haven't had one in a while, thankfully. Have you had one?
Actually, yes. About probably a week and a half ago, I was working on some weathering on the M30, and I just couldn't get the consistency of the pin wash that I wanted. And finally, after like 45 minutes of being unsuccessful, I stopped and walked away from that and just started. And that's what started my cleaning and organizing.
Well, hopefully I don't have. I've had trouble getting to the bench when I want to.
Yeah,
in the last couple of weeks, but
absolutely,
things are moving forward again. Well, man, that's it for the listener mail.
Yeah, hey, listen, guys, keep on sending in your goofs, gaffes, and blunders. Keep on emailing us, because again, as I've talked about repeatedly, it is the community that we're building that is really helping keep my mojo alive. And we love the interaction, so keep writing in. While you're listening, if you would, think to remember that at the end of the episode, if you would go to whatever podcasting app you're listening to us on and give us a rating, we'd appreciate 5 stars. It just helps the podcast become better known. Also, if you tell a friend, one of the ways that this podcast has grown in listeners is people telling their modeling friends. So we would appreciate it if you do that.
Well, we'd like to take time to plug our fellow podcasts as well. We thank you for listening to us, but you also need to be checking out the Scale Model Podcast out of Canada with Stuart and his friends up there. Just Making Conversation out of the UK. The Model Geeks and the Plastic Posse Podcast out of the USA. And since Scott's already going to start doing it this weekend, we're going to go ahead and give a plug too. Dave and I participated in a little roundtable conversation with Scott and the guys earlier this week, or last weekend actually.
Yeah.
And we're going to be on an upcoming episode of Plastic Posse Podcast. So please check that out as well.
We'd appreciate it.
On the Bench from Australia. Now, we've had some fun with them the last couple of weeks. Them and your yard mowing. You're not mowing your yard today.
No, I'm not. I had to mow it last night so that I could come up and participate in this today.
Well, I'll listen to On the Bench on the way up.
Oh, I did not.
And you get a drop in that episode every so often. It's all good.
Yeah.
You know, the other night, I get on these music deep dives on YouTube, and I tell you, On the Bench is not the only good thing coming out of Australia. They've got a burgeoning indie music scene down there.
Yes, they do. Absolutely.
And I'll put this up on one of the next Friday Night Live. I do probably next post on Facebook. But check out the Little Quirks and Winterborn. Those are 2 Aussie indie bands. I think they're both, in my opinion, could be as famous as they want to be.
Well, that's good. Listen, I'm always looking for new music.
All right. Well, also, we got some non-podcast content creators, blogs, and YouTube friends. Jim Bates of Scale Canadian TV out of Seattle. Stephen Lee, Sprue Pies with Frets, who we've loosely scheduled to appear on upcoming episode. We're going to get Stephen on to chat about something fun.
I really like his blog. He dived in head first with that thing. And
I know, in the deep end.
He has really done a great job with it.
And, of course, Chris Wallace at Model Airplane Maker, whose T-shirt happened to be sporting today.
That's right. That's right.
Representing Chris there a little bit. And Jeff Groves, the Inch High guy.
Who is wandering around the vendor room as we speak, and hopefully we'll get to exchange a few words with him later.
Well, as it turns out, we have Mr. Inch High, Jeff Groves, right here with us. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you guys.
Well, I want to get this on the public record. Here are your Navy books back that I've had for over a year. Now, that Takeo book, I'm going to have to buy that one.
They're quality books. The Anatomy of the Ship books
and the Tone, I want to buy this one too, but that one's freaking impossible to find right now. Everybody wants more than $100 for it.
Yeah, some of them just go out of sight.
Yes. Those Anatomy of the Ship books, you can sometimes find them for a deal every once in a while. If you monitor, you can find them where they pop up, and you can pick them up for a sale.
And Osprey's been republishing them with the 3D renders.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how's the blog going?
The blog's okay. It's interesting. I'm still having fun with it. Gives me an outlet for my modeling when we can't visit each other like we used to.
Are you enjoying actually getting to see people, see other modelers, vendors? I mean, how bad have you missed this?
Dave, I'm giddy as a schoolgirl. I didn't know how to act when I walked in here. I just walked around with my mouth open for the first half hour.
You can put your own picture up there for girls in the military now.
That's right. Women in the military.
Well, since you're all 72nd scale, I'm going to give you my last fret of home-etched E16 dive brakes.
Oh, those are fantastic.
Now, they're not all fantastic, but you can get 4 good ones off of there.
I think you have to build a seaplane carrier to take advantage of all these.
You might have to, so you can have those.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I have also come bearing gifts.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they're just As you may know, I got a 3D resin printer for Christmas.
Oh, what kind did you get?
It's a Creality CR002, I believe is the designation. And I wouldn't say the resin printing is all the way there yet, but they're getting a lot closer. So I have taken the liberty of printing up some stuff, mainly because I like printing stuff.
There you go.
But knowing your proclivity for the
oh, wow.
25 millimeter Japanese AA guns.
Is this 35th scale?
That's in 35th scale.
Oh, wow.
Your home scale.
Thank you.
And there's 4 of them in there. So you can make a triple mount out of them if you so desire.
Well, I've got a triple mount from Pit Road, I think, makes that kit.
Yeah, Pit Road.
And I've got an etch set for it. But there's in those books that you loan me, there's some single station.
Yep, those are made for that.
Yeah.
And David and I email back and forth about our friend Elon and what he's been up to.
Oh, look at that.
Lord.
So that's a 2-parter, and that's 350th scale. And here are the starships, including the hopper, in 700th scale.
Wow.
I think I'm going to have to get a printer now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not that expensive. And the problem is you get sucked into it.
Well,
And here's a couple Apollo astronauts in 72nd scale.
Now, are you doing the CAD, or you getting them off of a server?
I'm getting these off of Thingiverse.
Thingiverse, okay.
Yeah, I want to get into the CAD at some point. I'm not there yet. I've got to relearn my CAD skills that are a little rusty, but it's something that I think there's some potential for down the road.
Well, I think you're right. This looks, once I get the cage off of it,
Yeah,
it looks like it's going to look pretty good.
There's a lot of supports on that render, so you're going to have to clip very carefully to get down to what you're after there.
Jeff, what's amazing to me about these things is the stair step or whatever, I forget what the actual term is almost non-existent. I mean, the finish is amazingly smooth.
Yeah, the layers are, I believe, 5,000ths on this printer. And on the starships, they actually kind of simulate the texture of the stainless steel exterior that way. So I left them alone on one I did.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that is neat. You know, Elon's about to launch number 15.
Yeah, and that's the one with the nozzles optimized for vacuum flight.
Yep.
So that'll be an interesting one to see that one get up.
Well, this is awesome. Thank you very much.
Sure.
He was just monitoring the big 134 scale
Yeah,
rocket in the model
9.
room.
Oh,
Did you
that's
see
beautiful.
that?
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's very impressive.
And it was also apparently 3D printed.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Probably in like sections this big.
You'd have to make a stack out of it. I've also brought along, since one of your hooks is modeling fluid, I've brought you guys some.
Oh my God!
Oh, Lord.
A couple of bottles of Larceny Kentucky bourbon here, man.
Oh, that
I-
is super generous. You should not have done
What,
that. Thank you.
What did we do to deserve this?
Well, yeah, I've spent a lot of time at the bench and a lot of time editing photos for the blog, listening to you guys, and I was considering a Patreon or PayPal contribution to support the podcast. And
I think you
Yes.
did more with this than you could have done there. I mean,
Absolutely.
that'd have blown my mind, but this will too, actually.
yeah, little different context there, but I figured I'm going to see you guys in a few months, so I'll just bring along some modeling
man.
fluid
That's
for you.
That's
awesome.
great, man. And I appreciate the books. All that ended up being a huge rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is, in the Tone book, there's an elevated platform for one of the triple guns.
Yeah.
It's round. And it's got
Yeah.
all this truss work, I-beam truss work under it. Yeah, that's the way I want to do it.
Yeah, that would be impressive.
So I've got to get that book, and the Tone book's got all the scale drawings of all the individual components. So that book is a huge reference for not just that ship, but any standard Imperial Japanese Navy ship fitting.
Yeah, I found that out when I was modeling the Akitsushima, is the standard fittings are transferable, and once you get a good reference for the standard fittings, you've got your detail.
And I'd ordered 3D printed ammo boxes, but they came from Shapeways.
Oh,
and
no.
they're not nearly as good as this. Yeah, they weren't usable, actually.
Yeah, Shapeways has got some catching up to do.
Yeah,
I
they're behind
experienced
the
the same
times.
thing.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's an ammo locker file out there on Shapeverse. If you'd look for me, I'd appreciate it. I might have a printer of my own by then.
I'll look. If I can find one, you can check your mail.
All right.
All right.
Well, Jeff, we'll let you get back to the show. We appreciate you stopping by, and we certainly appreciate the gifts, and I appreciate you letting me borrow those books for so long. So
Anytime. My library's your library. You guys need to have a field trip and come up and see the workshop and the library and rate it for some references.
Well, that sounds great. But if this is what we get for keeping your books for a year, I'm going to keep them a lot longer next time.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, Jeff, it's good seeing you. I'm like you. I was amazed at how much I missed this. And a big part of that is seeing you and I have not seen each other since Indy last year.
Yeah, it was this show a little more than a year ago.
Yeah.
Was the last show I was at and the last time I saw you
And
guys.
that's when it all hit the fan, like 2 weeks after that, pretty much.
And it is amazing how much that is a big part of modeling. So I'm glad to see you, man. I'm going to hopefully see you a lot more in the future.
Likewise.
Yeah.
It's a real pleasure.
Well, thanks for the 3D prints. Most appreciated. Thank you for the larceny. That's going to get tapped into tonight after I get home from all of this.
He just wants to see you finish the Ziz, and he
That's
knows
right.
that's the only way it'll happen.
All right, well, let's take a little break here,
All
Dave.
right.
Well, Dave, I think by the epic increase in sound quality that folks realize we're probably back in the studio now for the follow-on here to our podcast.
Hopefully they realize that, although you're such a good sound engineer, maybe you've managed to make it all sound just like it was done in studio.
Well, the background noise at some level would have been nice, but I think we had a little bit more than we bargained for at the Roscoe Turner show.
Well, a combination of the fact that the building was one of those metal buildings with a concrete floor, and the fact that huge number of people turned out, and it was, while there was still plenty of space for social distancing and all, it was a lot of people, and a lot of people excitedly talking models. So that's what they're hearing in the background.
So the background noise was exponentially worse than I thought it was going to be and was prepared for. But, as Yogi Berra said, it is what it is.
Yep, we're learning.
We're learning, and I think we got some usable stuff. I just think hopefully Las Vegas or wherever we end up next will be a little quieter on the background noise.
Yeah.
It was interesting that the background noise was so loud that I couldn't filter it out because it was clipping way up into the bottom end of our vocal tracks and just monkeying with them like crazy. So we just had to run them like they are, and it's listenable. I think everybody will enjoy it, but we didn't get enough recorded material for an entire episode, and I think we're going to have to rethink our strategy the next time we do it. But it was a learning experience, and I don't know if it lived up to the hype, but we got what we got.
I had a hell of a fun time doing it, man. It was great.
Oh, so did I, man. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Roscoe Turner show here in a little bit. But where we left off at Roscoe Turner was a countdown to Vegas, Dave.
I'm telling you what, having attended the Roscoe Turner show only made me more excited to get to Vegas, because if an invitational show had that much energy and that much vitality, I cannot imagine what Vegas is going to look like.
Well, at the time of our recording at the Roscoe Turner show, we're only 123 days away from the 2021 IPMS National Convention in dazzling Las Vegas, Nevada.
Vegas, baby.
It's not far off, man.
I know, and it's going by quick. We do these podcasts every 2 weeks, and, that clips off days really quickly.
Oh, I know, because it just seems like a couple of nights go by and we're having to do this again.
I know.
Well, I pulled one email out of the listener mail to throw into this segment because we had a big dose of information with Bob Lomasaro last episode. So not knowing how Roscoe Turner was going to go, I kind of hedged my bets, and I didn't hedge my bets. I took a risk, quite the opposite. And I did not get in contact with Bob this week, but Joe Porcher wrote in, who's Bob's right-hand man, who we also need to get on here. Maybe we get those guys on together next time.
Maybe.
That'd be a good idea. I'm sure they'd like that.
Yeah.
He sent an email based on one of the, we had the listener mail come in last episode about how do you port all this stuff home
that you buy in the vendor room, especially if you flew to Vegas. And you have the old empty suitcase strategy, which is a good one.
Oh, yeah.
But if you didn't want to do that, Joe informs us that FedEx has a business center on site at the Rio, just adjacent to the convention center.
How convenient.
And with the postal rates as they are now, FedEx might not be that much of a stretch, to be honest.
No, really, to be honest, probably not. And a little quicker service to
might be cheaper at this point.
Yeah, well, ain't that the truth?
Well, we wouldn't be having all this fun if it weren't for our sponsor, Dave. So why don't we step back a little bit and have a word from our sponsor, Model Paint Solutions.
Plastic Model Mojo is now brought to you by Model Paint Solutions, your source for Harder Steenbeck airbrushes, David Union power tools, and laboratory-grade mixing, measuring, and storage tools for use with all your model paints, be they acrylic, enamels, or lacquers. Check them out at www.modelpaintsolutions.com.
All right, we're back, and we hope to get John on here very soon. We've got him queued up for a new segment here in about a week coming up May. I think it's this weekend, actually. We may be talking to him, or maybe 1st of May. I can't remember. I have to check and see. But Dr. Strangebrush will be making another appearance on Plastic Model Mojo very soon, and be delivering a whole lot more useful tips to you guys. So look forward to that.
Speaking of modeling, what's your modeling benchtop look like?
Well, I am chipping away,
man,
at the Zis 2 anti-tank gun, and I think you misunderstood me at the show. You were under the misconception that I'd finished the chipping. I have not finished the chipping, though. John Bonani got me fired up when he called me out right before we started recording for our special segment with those guys coming up on their show, and I did plow through the main gun assembly. So that part's done. And I've been trying to move to the split trail, and it's kind of giving me fits because with the gun assembly and the shields, it's all got, sharp corners and edges, and it's really kind of obvious what would be banged up and chipped on the gun shield and that sort, and all the sheet metal stuff, anything with sharp corners. And I was trying to do some sponge chipping on the split trail arms, and couple problems. One was I was getting a lot of wraparound where it was the side, it was folding over the split trail and making vertical streaks on the sides. And I wasn't liking that too much. So luckily, if you get on it quick, you can sharpen a toothpick and kind of knock that off. So I recovered from that pretty easily. So there's a tip. You can kind of scratch that back off if you catch it pretty soon. And I've gone back to the paintbrush, and I sent you a photograph tonight. I've done a little bit on one of the split trails, and I kind of got my strategy is thinking that two things. You got the crew climbing over the split trail to use the gun. You got the loader on one side and the gunner on the other, and so their feet are going to bang onto the split trail arms occasionally when they cross over, coming into and from the gun. And another thing that happens with you see these guns in tow sometimes in photographs, and with the split trails locked together, they'll pile ammo crates on the split trails and bind them on there with a cable or rope or something. And so they're using it as a trailer essentially. So another reason the tops they're going to get banged up. So I'm kind of concentrating on the tops with a little on the sides, not too concerned about the bottom because you can't really see it. And so far I'm liking the way it's going. And it's getting faster too, which is something we've talked about in the past.
Yeah. And I'm just coming up to where you are finishing. I'm just getting ready to do the chipping, and of course this is completely new to me, so I'm dreading how long I know it will take, but it is good news to hear that it gets faster as you go.
And in addition to getting faster, I'm also finding myself figuring out some shapes, scratch shapes or big scuffs and things like that, and kind of mapping it out with the lighter shade of green, and then coming back and I'm bracing my both hands together to kind of hit the centers of these lighter green chips with the oxidized metal, the patina, the patina steel color, the brown color inside those things. Yeah. And man, I tell you, I'm really liking the way it's looking. This thing's really coming together. I'm really pleased with it. And hopefully the split trail, if I can keep working on it at the pace I'm working now, it might be done by the weekend. Then we can move on to the wheels.
That would be good. See, and I'll be honest with you, that's one of my concerns with my essential tremor. I am worried about the exposed metal inside the chips, whether I can get it to the point where I can get it inside the lighter green chips. So that's going to be a real challenge for me. I've got to say, I'm a little worried about that.
Now, another thing I'm doing, let me grab my brush. I can't remember what size it is. It's a 5/0, so it's not terribly tiny. It's small.
That's what she said.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad to help.
What I'm doing is when I get the paint on the brush, I'm drawing it out along I got a metal one of those aluminum pallets, so I got the paint in one of the cups thinned out like I want it, and then I'm like drawing it on a clean spot of the palette. Then flip the brush over 180 degrees and draw it again, and what that does is it flattens the brush out. Instead of a point, instead of a round, it's now a pointed flat. If that makes sense. And I use the knife edge. It's got two narrow edges where you flattened it out, and that's what I'm using. So you can draw that brush down to something like a 10/0, but you got a lot more paint in the brush. Yeah, and you can just kind of use that flattened edge of the brush to work. It's really good for working edges and corners, I find. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my strategy.
Well, I've got to hop back on mine.
You do. You need to hop back on it. Well, it's your turn now. What are you working on besides that?
Wait a minute. Is that all you got?
That's all I got, man.
Nothing.
Everything else.
Nothing else on the bench.
Nothing else on the bench. Not yet.
Oh man. Well, I've got the M30, which we just discussed. It's pin washed and ready for chipping. I actually may also do a little dot filtering first, but I'm not sure. And I'm not sure if I want to do dot filtering before chipping. I think so.
What kind of oil paints you got?
I've got a couple of Ableton 502s, but I've got a set of just regular tube oils.
Now, let me tell you my favorites on the green.
Uh-huh.
I really like the faded navy blue.
Yeah.
And there's a dark green, faded green. Yeah. I don't know which ones you got. And those are kind of dark colors. I really like the blue over the 4BO, especially when you blend it out. Yeah. It gives an interesting color shift. You can get it away from blue. Do you have their olive green?
I don't think I've got that. Well, I might have their olive green. I'm not sure I do.
Yeah, I think you're going to want to pick that up if you don't.
Okay.
That one goes a long way with kind of unifying the colors. Anyway, there you go.
Well, thank you. I need the tip. So like I said, I'm sitting here just ready to do dot filter followed by chipping. I think I've probably been putting it off because of my concerns about my ability to chip given the challenges. The mosquito is almost ready to be primed, but I found myself over the last week and a half, a little bit frustrated that my model room was at constant critical mess. And so I did a stopped and did some major rearranging. And so I devoted some time to that. And then since I wasn't really feeling the mosquito or the M30, I pulled the missiles out of the TU-128 kit that I'm building that's kind of been pushed off to the side while these other two have gotten worked on. And so I pulled them out, pulled the AA5 Ash missiles out of the kit, figuring that I was going to have to do a lot to them to tart them up. Because, most missiles on 72nd scale kits, they're not particularly well detailed. But I've got to say, pleasantly surprised that the ones in the trumpeter kit were actually pretty darn good compared to the prototype items. The only thing that was missing was a reinforcing plate on each side of the fins toward the back. And then that reinforcing plate has 4 fair-sized rivets, round head rivets, on the plate. And so last year I bought that RP Tools chopper, but had never used it. And this was a chance for me to take and make because there are 8 plates on each missile that I had to manufacture 8 times 4, 32 identical reinforcing plates.
So you can do math.
Thank you. Well, not very well. I'm slow. I'm not an engineer. But so what I did was I pulled the chopper out and some 005 plastic sheet, and I cut a strip of the plastic sheet that was right for the size of the reinforcing plate in one dimension. And then I took the chopper, which has, and this is what makes it really good, besides the fact that it's real tight tolerances and it's all metal. And it has a stop that you can adjust. So I figured out the length that I needed to make a uniform reinforcing plate. I set the stopper and then just chopped away and got as many of those reinforcing plates as I wanted, every one the exact same. There was no, especially when you're using 005 plastic.
Yeah.
You don't get any flex in the blade. Sometimes if you're trying to use one of these choppers to cut really thick plastic, the razor blade will actually flex and give you a curve on one edge, on the cutting edge. But when you're cutting this 005 stuff, it just, I mean, it's like a knife through butter.
It's like paper. I mean, it's so thin.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's very similar to that. And so I managed to cut them. In fact, it took me longer to place them, glue them all on the missiles than it did to actually manufacture them. And then I was going to make 128 individual rivet heads.
Yay.
Out of plastic, and quickly realized that was a stupid idea. So you ended up with a really great suggestion, which is the Archer decal 3D rivet heads. They make several sets, and I went and ordered 2 of them. And it turns out that one of them has the rivet spaced perfectly. So I should be able to apply all 4 rivets together in one decal on the reinforcing plate. And that should speed that up. And then once that's done, at that point, it's actually the missiles are ready to prime. So used a new tool, got a new product. Just, as far as what's your plan for getting better, I'm learning stuff.
Well, that's an excellent application for one of those chopper type tools, regardless of which one you got. I mean, when you need repetitive, the scratch building, yeah. Good on you. When I replaced all the access hatches on the top of my 72nd scale catapult for the E16, I did the exact same thing.
Yeah, it is and I am a huge fan of 005 and 010 sheets and plastic art. Those are the easiest to work with, the easiest to manipulate.
You got to watch how much cement you put on that 5,000th, though, man. That stuff it'll go away real quick.
Yeah, it will literally melt.
For the rest of the world, that's like a little more than 1/10 of a millimeter. So it's yes. Pretty thin stuff. Do you know what I use it for quite often?
What?
If I have a fairly large piece of photo etch, I will glue that photo etch to a piece of 5,000 styrene, then cut it out with the styrene still on the photo etch and glue it onto the model with liquid cement. Yep.
Because you can do that to the point that basically it melts almost all the plastic. So the photo etch is really not standing any prouder than it otherwise would have if you'd attached it directly.
And it won't work with everything, but for larger pieces, have a big enough surface area, you can do that. Yeah. Because I hate super glue. And it's easy. It's easier to glue it to a sheet and not care how good a job you did and then cut it out than glue it to the model and muck it all up.
Well, what I've done, and I forget who suggested this, and it really works out well as far as I'm concerned, is I will use either a little bit of gator glue or a little bit of future and put a dot where I want the photo etch to go on the model, I'll put a dot of Gator glue or a dot of Future. Then I will apply the photo etch and I can move it around. And then when I get it where I want, I just let go. It's sitting there sticking lightly because of the Gator glue or the Future. And then I'll come back with a one of those eyeliner brushes that I buy by 100 from Amazon with the real sharp point, and I'll get some black super glue and run it around the edge of the photo etch, and then pull the old Uncle Night Shift trick of coming back in with debonder on a brush to remove the excess.
Man, we got all kinds of tips tonight.
I know. It's great. So do we have an interview?
Yeah, let's dive back into the material from the Roscoe Turner show and talk about our little special mission we had set up via the Facebook page before we got to the show.
It was a great special mission.
It was. So here you go, guys. Enjoy.
All right, Dave, we got another special guest here.
All right.
Introduce yourself, sir.
Well, my name's Mike Reiki. I'm from the Indianapolis area here and got tasked with a special mission for you guys and was glad I was able to come through.
Well, we appreciate it. That special mission has earned you the title of Mojovian Special Agent 001.
That's right.
Yes.
And what do you model, man? What got you here?
This is my second show. The first one was this one last year.
Okay.
So
that's the last one we went to, by the way.
Yep, the last one that there has been. I do a little bit of everything. Armor, aircraft, some ships, sci-fi, every scale. Not a constant guy at all.
Huh. That's unusual in this day and age.
Yeah, I started, same thing, little kid, build models, got out of it for a bit. Moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana from Reno, Nevada 5 years ago.
Okay.
We went to the Air Force Museum, and my dad was with us, and I said, I've always wanted to build a model of the Valkyrie. So for Christmas, he got me a model of the Valkyrie, and that got me back into it.
You built the ATM kit of the...
Yeah. It's a turd.
Yeah, I was going to say...
Good thing you were a kid, because that'd drive you nuts as
I wasn't. That's the one that I got back into.
He got back into modeling, built that kit, and continued to model. Yeah. That is amazing.
That's pretty bad.
It takes some work, but you can make a good-looking kit out of it.
You can, but man, that is the opposite of Tamiya shake the box and have it roll out.
That it is. And here's the scary thing. I have a second one.
Oh.
All right. This is your serious build?
Yeah, I'm gonna build this one, but I want to do it the all chipped up, flaked off version.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's gonna be a big build.
Well, even after you build that turd of a kit, you got to paint it white.
You got to paint it white.
White is such a hard color to pull off.
That I spray canned the first one. Won't do that with all the chipping that's going to be involved in the second one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's back into it, like I said, and God, probably in the last 3 years, I've probably built 30 kits or so.
That's great.
That's great progress.
Are
you in Indy now? Do you live in Indianapolis?
I'm in Indianapolis now.
Are you in their club?
I am not. I'm going to have to get into that.
All right. Well, look into that. I'm sure they'd appreciate it.
Yep,
you might enjoy it. We haven't had many live club meetings in a while. But let's get to what you got you here. Last year, Dave and I came to Indianapolis, and there's a little local restaurant here called Patty's of Jamaica. It's a Caribbean restaurant, and for some reason, they like to be closed on Saturdays and Sundays, to our chagrin last year. So I tried to circumvent that this year, and I put out on the Facebook page a local to maybe run an errand for us, which you did. And you've brought us 3 bags of frozen Patties of Jamaica, Jamaican meat patties.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to take those home and enjoy them this weekend. Just a crazy thought I had, and you came through, man. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem.
So first off, cash-wise, what do I owe you?
Don't worry about it. Call it my donation to the podcast.
Oh, no.
I've listened to every episode. You guys provide me with one heck of a service, and I appreciate that. So,
well, we do have a gift for you.
The plastic model Mojo,
the show favorite, man.
Yeah, that's right, gumball.
So I don't know if you like that or not.
I do love me some 3 Floyds.
Okay, well that's definitely not their worst.
No, not at all.
It is good stuff.
The Bavarian Haze is my go-to, but I think that's the Tamiya kit tie-in.
Tamiya kit box. Oh yeah.
have you stopped and read all the little print on it? It's
awesome.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's great.
Mike and I have tried to get a hold of the folks at Three Floyds because we would like to talk to the person who did that.
Yeah.
Because that's somebody who was a modeler at one point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got some gumball head at home. I can't wait to have a gumball head and one of those Jamaican meat patties.
There you go.
Well, Mike, we'll let you get back to shopping. We appreciate you stopping by. We thank you for running the errand for us, and enjoy the beer.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
man.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Well, we're back, and it's time for What Broke Your Wallet, Dave.
Let's break this into two parts.
Let's talk about the show first.
Yes, that's what I was going to suggest. Let's start about Roscoe Turner. So for the first time in 13 months, I was exposed to a vendor room, and I got news for you. I was a little in a big vendor room, lots of vendors, lots of product. It was great. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little worried that I might go a little crazy. However, I showed a fair amount of restraint. I ended up picking up only one kit, and that is the Fine Molds R2Y1 Kyun, which was a Japanese experimental reconnaissance aircraft. It was developed at the end of the war. Only flew once, May of 45, and then was destroyed in bombing 3 days later. And they had two others under manufacture, but neither one of those got finished before the end of the war. But I've been looking for that kit to help round out my Japanese collection. Got a really good deal on it. Then I found some AK paints. Somebody was selling individual bottles and sets of AK. And I picked up a few of those because as much as I still prefer enamels, those AK real color paints are probably my second choice when it comes to paints. So picked up some more of them. And then I went over to Market Starfighter, who was there vending. In fact, he said it's the only show he's going to be doing in this area until next year. And he had a couple of sets of decals that I picked up, and then I picked up a resin interior set that I immediately got rid of. And that was my shopping for Roscoe Turner. It wasn't bad. I was proud of my restraint. So how did you do at Roscoe Turner?
I didn't do too bad. Somebody gifted me an resin interior set from Starfighter Decals for SOC Seagull.
72nd scale aircraft.
72nd scale. I appreciate that very much, Dave.
Mm.
Traded it for meat patties, I guess. Well, I also spent a fair nickel at Starfighter. What all I pick up? I picked up Pratt & Whitney Wasp engine for maybe the Seagull, maybe for something else. Kingfisher. I don't know what else it went into.
It went into a lot.
Like into the 1960s even. It's a popular engine. That's a little resin engine casting. I picked up the photo etched rigging set for the Seagull, which is flat rigging, which was, I'm learning too. Right. American planes of that era had a flat tape type rigging on them.
Yep,
and
they did.
So the photo etch kind of lends itself to that. So we'll see how that goes. Trying to think what else I got. I got a set of
decals.
I did get decals. I got decals for the Sikorsky Sea King, old 66 from the Apollo missions, specifically the Apollo 13 set. It's exclusive to one aircraft. So I've been wanting to do that one. Dragon just boxed a kit with the helicopter and the capsule and the balloons and all that. Yep. And I imagine if Dragon's decals haven't gotten any better over the years.
I can tell you that Mark's decals are fantastic. Starfighter, I have used Starfighter decals on 2 or 3 occasions, and they are very, very good. On register, very thin. react very well with setting solutions. I can't recommend them highly enough, so I know you'll be pleased.
I think that's all I got from him.
Really? Okay.
I feel like I'm missing something. I don't know.
Did you pick anything else up from anybody else?
Well, one of my favorite things to do at a show is, you got all these individual sellers or hobby shop vendors, and they've usually got this big box of stuff they're just trying to get rid of. And it's just full of crap, man. Just
usually sitting right at the foot of their table.
That's right. Usually sitting right at the foot of the table or at the end of the table. And there was one of these such boxes there, and I started digging around. I found these resin cast building ruins in 1/72nd scale as well. So I made a deal, and I picked up 3 of them.
Well, see, and that's what I was going to say. The nice thing about it is when you see a vendor who has a box like that, you know he wants to get rid of that crap. He's been carrying it around show after show, and it's stuff that gets consigned to that box is stuff that he just wants to go away.
He wants to get as much money as he can get out of it, and exactly. Just about take anything.
And we'll take nearly anything. So if you take the time, and it's a time-consuming process because there's no organization. You never know what you're going to encounter. But if you take the time to dig through these things, you can get some amazing deals.
It makes me wonder if you just made an offer on the entire box and then parted it out on your own and sold it on eBay.
Oh, kind of like be a mini Turk.
Yeah, I think so.
Speaking of which, the Turk was at the show and bought a couple of vendors out.
I think that's all I bought at the show. But I think what's amazing, being a 35th scale armor guy primarily, that everything I bought was 72nd scale, and almost and the lion's share of it was for aircraft. So
we've got him, guys.
I think it won't be a full convert, but it's going to be expanded horizons.
There you go. Well, I'm building 35th scale.
I know you are. It's good for you.
We're expanding. So. Well, while that might have been all you got at Roscoe Turner, it wasn't necessarily all you got. So, Mike and Jim and I got together, and I placed a Hanitz order, combining stuff that all of us wanted to combine the shipping costs and all. And that box arrived, and Mike had ordered a few things from Hanitz, and not maybe as much as I did, but he made a significant order. So what did you get?
Well, I did get one 135th scale offering. I got the FMC 35 light tank from ICM. So looking forward to that.
Wait, FCM 36.
36, yes. You are correct. I'm wrong.
All right.
And then again, the rest of the balance is all 72nd scale aircraft accessories.
Yes, it is.
I think I've got Wasp engines from a couple of companies, maybe.
Yes, you do, and some brass
and some brass machine guns.
Yep, and they're very nice looking.
All right, well,
that's the advantage, guys, of being the one to place the order.
Get to see it all.
Is that I get to go through all of it before I distribute it out. So, I get to examine all of it. And those are some really nice brass machine guns, one of which I think probably will work on your Paul float plane.
Well, I'm not going to use it on that one.
Oh, aren't you?
Well, okay. The Paul is actually the rear armament for it's actually from the prototype aircraft. It's got their copy, the Japanese copy of the Lewis gun with the flat drum on top.
Yeah.
The service versions of those aircraft had the German MG-13 with the double saddle type feed on them. So they changed the gun on them. So now everybody knows Mike's aircraft will be more representative of the prototype than the fielded version, but don't tell anybody.
I've got a bunch of German MG-13s in resin and brass in 72nd scale, man.
Well, the thing is, the ammo stowage on the sidewalls is already.
Oh, it's already the
Lewis gun. So
okay,
learn as I go. I go. Well, what did you get from Hanitz? My order pales by comparison.
Yes, well, I ordered the Tacom Yamato turret, which was the big item.
You know that old Johnny Cash song, "One Piece at a Time"?
Yes. Yep. Inch and I talked about that at the Roscoe Turner show, because they have announced the secondary armament for the Yamato as another kit. So we are speculating whether they're just building a 72nd scale Yamato one piece at a time.
There you go.
Or at least all the significant parts of it.
If they release the main stack as a standalone kit, you'll know what's up.
Oh yeah. That will definitely confirm it. Well, in addition, the same kit that's going to have the secondary armament, it's also going to have the front and rear anchors, which, if they're manufacturing the anchors, I'm wondering if they've already made a commitment. Listen, if they did, more power to them. Of course, if you piece this thing out, it's going to cost thousands of dollars to buy the whole thing.
But you might actually get it done.
Yes, that's true too. But I bought the Yamato turret. I also bought a 35th scale armor kit. I bought the IBG TKS, the little the little Polish tankette. I got the version with the 20 millimeter cannon.
Yep, I got that in the stash myself.
And it, they only built 40 of those. They had, a lot of the machine gun armed versions, but the 20 millimeter version, there were only about 40 of those. It comes with figures. It comes with link and length tracks, which are really, really tiny. I did open that up and fondle it already. The 20 millimeter gun is in brass, and you also get brass screens. And I've got to say, and it comes with a complete interior. I'm not sure that I'm going to, to do a complete interior in mine, but man, it is a nice kit. I've got to say, I was really impressed. And
even at 35th scale, the thing's like 3 inches square when it's done.
Oh yeah. It's tiny. I mean, it is. I don't see how two people got in it. Literally, I'm not sure how two people squeezed into that thing, but it's amazing. And I'm anxious, once the M30's done, I'm anxious to actually get into a second 35th scale kit. So maybe that makes up a little bit for your conversion to 72nd scale. I got one more kit. I got the Dora Wings Turbo Porter. Have you ever seen the movie Air America with Robert Downey Jr. and Mel Gibson?
Yes.
Okay. There's a scene in there where they're flying a turbo porter and they land on the side of a hill. And ever since I've seen that scene in that movie, I've wanted to build a turbo porter.
In that scheme?
Well, the kit I bought has a UN scheme, a white UN scheme. Well, it turns out, of course, after I purchased this kit, I find out they're going to release an Air America scheme. They're going to release another boxing with an Air America scheme. So, and I'm sure somebody's going to do, if they haven't done it already, somebody's going to do an aftermarket set of decals for Air America. Because I might even do the bird from the movie, which I'm not sure was painted up exactly as the actual aircraft were in Laos.
Well, you know what you need to do?
What?
You need to convince Bates that he wants to build a UN version, but get him to buy the Air America version. Then you just swap out.
Yeah, but he wants to do the Air America version too. We've already talked.
Well, then tell him
that,
he's never going to finish it, so just send you the decals.
Send me decals. Okay, that's what I'll do. Other than that, then I bought some photo etch for a MiG-25 interior, and I bought some masks for the Tu-128, Trumpeter Tu-128, because I didn't have a mask set. And as I've said previously on the episodes, I've taken a firm resolution that I'm not building any aircraft with a cockpit and a canopy without a pre-cut mask set for it. So I took care of that.
Well, we're gonna have to ratchet it back a little bit. We've bought a lot of stuff.
I know. Now we got to get building.
That's right. We got to get building. Well, let's talk about the Roscoe Turner show.
Hell, I could talk about that forever. It was a fantastic. I knew I was going to enjoy it. I didn't realize how much I missed it and how excited I was going to getting there and doing participating in it. It was a great show. Props to the Roscoe Turner chapter. They took a chance. They moved their show, got it into a big facility. I am sure they were worried that people might still be COVID shy. You know, if that happens and people don't show up, it's a kind of a disaster. But the exact opposite occurred. Obviously, I was not the only one who was anxious to get to a show. They had a huge turnout, 904 models, which was double their usual of about 500 models or so. And obviously, we all have been spending the last year building models
no doubt.
while we're locked down.
No doubt about that.
Because, man, there was turnout, baby. It was amazing. Now, like I said, this was a big fairgrounds thing, and we were inside these big metal buildings on concrete pads. The nice thing about that was that when a huge number of people showed up, there was still plenty of space. You weren't on top of each other. You know, you weren't forced to rub elbows as you walked up and down aisles, stuff like that. So there was plenty of social distancing space. Pretty much everybody was wearing masks. The people were paying attention to that sort of thing. Nobody was crazy about it. And we got to see a lot of the listeners. And I told Mike that the weirdest thing that happened that I just completely did not expect. Mike and I are standing in the model room. We're looking at a model. We're talking. And somebody walks up behind us and they recognized, I guess, both of us by our voice. And I never in a million years considered that because we do the podcast, somebody would recognize us by our voices.
Like, are you Dave and Mike?
That's right. That's exactly what happened. And you know what? I will say that was the best thing at the show, at least for me, was getting to meet all of these people who listen, and many of them we've interacted with by email or on the Facebook page, but getting to actually see them and meet them uniformly, great people, all of whom came up and told us how much they enjoyed it and how much they how much they were listening to us while they were modeling, and it helped maintain their mojo. I just absolutely was thrilled. How about you?
Well, I had a blast too, but let's segment this up a little bit. The vendor room where we were, the downside was the noise. The upside was the cavernous expanse they had, and the fact that they actually filled it up with vendors.
Yes. Yep.
I know there were more vendors at that show than there was at the Roscoe Turner show at the high school on the other side of town.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. There were.
Now there were some key folks who weren't there. David Doyle wasn't there selling his books, and John Wojtek wasn't there with UMM, which unfortunately I was hoping was going to talk to on the podcast, but they weren't there, but for whatever reason. But man, they certainly backfilled it with secondhand kit dealers and a few hobby shop type things. I've never seen so much paint and weathering product in one place. You know, I've got a picture of the paint rack you bought from the guy who had all the AK stuff.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yes.
It was like very rarely do you have that much opportunity at an invitational type show.
Yeah.
I mean, there was so much stuff there. Oh my gosh.
It was the way it was the size of a vendor room of a Nationals 25 years ago. It was just tons of vendors, and not only tons of vendors, but tons of really good vendors.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of good stuff, and you had no problem spending your money there.
Well, when I go to a show, I've kind of stopped having a shopping list because you always end up disappointed.
Yes,
but you also find a lot of stuff you didn't know you needed.
True enough. And one of the nice things for me about vendor rooms, I mean, the internet is the internet, and we can all go online and order something, but a vendor room gives you a chance to actually look at the items. You can see pictures of them on a website, website where some hobby distributor or whatever is selling them, but the actual chance to get to touch and look at the item gives you a much better buying experience. And there was plenty of model stuff to touch at the Roscoe Turner show.
Well, we did meet a lot of people, and got a lot of positive feedback. Gave a lot of stickers away.
Yes.
So if you got one, send us a picture where you stuck it.
Nothing obscene, please. I will tell you my favorite story that one of our listeners told us was the fact that they got a new member in their club because that person was listening to our podcasts, and we encourage them to reach out if they're at a if they're near a local IPMS chapter modeling club, to reach out. And one of our listeners told us about the fact that they gained a new member because of the fact that that person listened to the show and took that advice, and that made my day right then and there.
Well, we can expound on that a little bit. That was
Sure.
Michael Aluzzi wrote us the email from the Jack Weislich Polish Coach Watchers chapter of the IPMS up in Peoria, Illinois, and the member who joined from listening to the podcast was Mr. Derek Shaw, and we got to meet him at the show, and I wanted to talk to him, but the day got away from us, and just that's what happens when you don't plan too much for how the show's going to go down when you're trying to podcast from one. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
But Derek, it was good to meet you, and glad you're listening to the podcast, and glad you found a chapter club, a home club to be a part of. And I think he told me he builds a lot of everything, which that's a good approach too.
Yep. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about the model room a little bit.
I was waiting for you to get into that. First of all, 904 models.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of models. I mean, it was incredible. And not only a lot of models, the quality was mind-blowing. I didn't envy the judges. They did some splits, which Lord knows they needed to with that many models. I did not envy them having to go through and judge those categories because, wow, there was a lot of good stuff.
And all the categories were stacked.
Yes, that's right. There were nobody got an award because they were the only guy who entered the category.
Or there are only 3.
Yeah, exactly.
I could be wrong because I didn't look at every category
Neither did I.
Well, I probably did, but not to the point to know how many entries were in each one. But it sure looked like that, even Real Space.
Yes. Real Space was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
In the number of entries. That is obviously, and I don't know if that's related to SpaceX and the U.S. being back in the manned space flight business and all of this, and Starship and all of this other stuff. But it seems to me that Real Space is coming around to be a real growing category.
All the categories were stacked, like I said, and just the quality. There were some really amazing models there.
Yes. Yep.
You should have entered.
Yeah, well, since this is the first time we podcasted from a show, and I was, bringing my stuff to vend. I was getting rid of some old kits and all. I just didn't want to have to deal with one more thing, which was transporting a model. So I took a pass this time.
Well, I didn't take a pass.
I know. And that $50 bill you taped under your entry form apparently did some good.
No, my little Airfix Bofors and Morris tractor benefited from a category split, and they split it by scale, I think.
Yes, I think they did.
I ended up with a first, so I'm going to retire that little scene until regional or nationals, or maybe the regional show at Rycon.
Yeah.
And
well, one of the things that I found encouraging from that, the downside was you walked out of there with a giant head and, take a while to deflate. But the upside was, I think it really makes a point that you can even take an older model. I mean, while that's not a bad kit, it is in no way, shape, or form modern technology.
No, not at all.
I mean, the kit, has been molded long enough that the molds are getting a little long in the tooth, and it just goes to show that if you apply good technique and good modeling technique, you can take one of those older kits and turn it into something that shows very respectably at a model show.
Well, and it has, and I appreciate that. I did. That was the whole point of that, was to make it the tightest build I could, given what I had to work with, and to take my time and do a good paint job on it. And I tarted it up a little bit. I put the gun sight rings on there and put the windshield wipers and the window glazing in it. But other than that, it just pretty much out of the box after that. So I'm pleased with the way that turned out. I'm hot to do another one now.
Well, good. You've got that SA2 kit.
Yeah, I know, but it's another desert kind. Well, I could do a North Vietnamese one.
Oh yeah, the two-tone green. There are great pictures of them where they're camouflaged on the launcher in a two-tone green scheme.
Well, you have to send me some pictures.
I will do so.
So, in a nutshell, the Roscoe Turner show was phenomenal. I'm sure it exceeded their expectations.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder what the Nationals is going to be like.
That is absolutely where my thought processes went. I've already thought that, given the fact that we missed a year for having a Nationals, that there was going to be demand. The shows out west tend to be a little bit smaller than the shows in central or eastern United States. But there's a part of me that's thinking that for sure Vegas will be the largest Western national that IPMS has ever seen. And with the amount of enthusiasm and pent up energy, I don't know. It could surprise us all as far as size and numbers,
it could. You're right.
So, but all I can tell you is I can't wait.
All right. Well, let's go back to Roscoe Turner one more time and hear a few words from our number one fan in Chicagoland, Mr. Hector Colon. All right. We got Hector Colon with us here from the Butch O'Hare chapter. Hector, it's actually your second appearance here because I gaffed the first time you were here.
Well, thank you for having me back.
Well, I'm glad to. How'd the judging go, by the way?
It went really well. Their system is really neat.
Okay.
It's only a first, second, and third place. So, and all the categories are separated. So, yeah, it went pretty well. Luckily, we had enough people volunteer, so.
That's a big problem sometimes, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well, given how many models were entered, I thought the judging might drag out a whole lot longer.
Right. I think the final number was 904.
Oh, my God. That's a lot for an invitational.
Yes.
That's unbelievable, really. And it's been crowded in the vendor room all day today, too.
Yes, it has.
So I think the answer to that question is out there now. So.
Yeah, and like I told you earlier, this has made me nervous for our show in November.
Well, give us some information about your show.
Well, this will be our 35th annual Butch O'Hare Model Show. It's normally held in the second Saturday of November. This year was probably the first Saturday of November. And we are looking for a new venue. At the moment, the club president and I will be inspecting the place next Saturday. And if it works, we're just going to pull the trigger and book it.
Okay. Well, sounds good.
Didn't you all used to hold it in school?
Yes, we did. Lakeview Junior High School.
Okay.
So,
And just that's not available now, or you outgrew it, or?
Well, number one, we did outgrow it, and the school board doesn't confirm their schedule until late July when they have their annual meeting.
Gotcha.
So, and that just doesn't give us enough time to book something.
Gotcha.
And get all the advertising out. So we decided to move it. And we moved it to a hotel north of us. However, that hotel was sold and then closed.
Oh, man.
That's why we're looking for a new venue.
Well, good luck finding it.
Thank you.
Wish you guys the best. And just thank you, Hector, for your support of our podcast and all the podcasts and all the gifts you've sent us from the club. A lot of great stuff. We really appreciate you guys listening and enjoying it. And it's just been a pleasure communicating with you over the last year.
You are very welcome.
I'm glad you like
pleasure.
it. It's just a unforeseen a blessing, really. All the feedback we've gotten and to find out our show and all the shows means so much to the modeling community out there because a lot of people didn't even know what podcasting was before the pandemic, believe it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
I really didn't know what podcasts were. My wife was the one who actually got into it first.
Okay.
And then
not ours, I assume.
No. No. And then
come on, Mike, you've got a sexy voice.
And then so I started listening to podcasts, and then I started searching for podcasts which interested me. And the first one was naturally On the Bench, those characters down in Australia.
Yep.
And then I found you guys, and then the guys up in Canada, and now we have the one in Utah, and the one that just started down in Virginia. So
and the one out of the UK.
Grown. Yeah, and the one out of the UK.
So what did your wife listen to? Podcast True Crime or?
Yeah.
That is
True Crime.
That is the biggest area of podcasting in the entire podcast arena is True Crime.
Right. And I've even got hooked onto some True Crime podcasts.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the vendor room's been stacked. I mean, I can't believe it. There's a lot of people here. Most of them are shuffling off now. We're getting a little late in the day, but did you find anything good?
I wasn't looking for anything. My stash at home is big enough.
Yeah.
I was actually looking for decals. This was a raffle prize.
Oh, okay. The old Sequest, the old short-run TV show.
Right. So I was like looking for decals, but nobody had any 48 scale Mirage Israeli markings.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that answers that question. You build 48 scale modern mostly?
Yes. I actually started in the figure arena.
Okay.
When I was in California, I was a member of the Scams Club.
Yeah,
which is primarily a figure club.
Yeah.
And then I moved into gaming miniatures, which I'm doing right now. I have a whole army of Blood Angels on my desk. And I primarily build 48 scale aircraft.
Okay, well, cool.
So I am working on a diorama, which this idea is still rolling around in my head, which will be a 1970 Ford Mustang, restored. And it took me a while to find an actual female mechanic figure that actually didn't make. How can I put this?
Yeah.
The body proportions were actually believable.
Believable, if not trending toward average.
Yes.
In other words, not Playboy model who then became a car mechanic.
Or Hot Rod magazine.
Someone who doesn't make Barbie look like olive oil.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I've got a few things on my desk.
Well, thanks you for joining us again.
Thank you
Pleasure
very
to meet
much.
you face to face, and we appreciate all the support. And have a safe trip back to Chicagoland.
Thanks. And if you guys are up in the Chicago area in November, we'd love to have you.
We'll make an effort.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. It was great to finally meet Hector. He's been a big fan of the show, not just our show, all the shows, and he sent us all that swag, all the pins and lanyards and T-shirts, and just a really swell guy. I really enjoyed talking to him.
Yep, and I'll tell you what, that theme runs through all of the listeners who came up and talked to us. Everyone just nice as they could be, wonderful people. Guys wanting to talk modeling and. It really keeps the mojo alive.
He's a natural on the mic too. I actually Inch was as well. So
yes,
they all were. I think everybody likes talking about their hobby. Is the nutshell. In the nutshell, that's the common theme there. Is that everybody likes talking about their hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mike, we're getting to the end of the episode. You got some shout outs?
I do have some shout outs. Do you have some shout outs?
I have one big shout out.
All right. Well, I'll go first and you can throw that one in and I'll finish up.
Okay.
My first one goes to John Paisano. We had a little fun with him during the listener mail about going to sleep during the podcast and missing the information about how to donate to the show. But John and a few of our regulars, and you know who you are, regulars, have made some contributions over the last couple of weeks, and we really appreciate it. And to do that, if somebody else would like to do that, go to www.plasticmodelmojo.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, you will see an icon shaped like a heart. You can use that icon to go directly to PayPal and contribute to our efforts, and it's most appreciated. It's help us get this show on the road and just keep us bringing the show to you. So we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You all have been very generous. It's allowed us to actually pay the costs of hosting and upgrade the equipment. Hopefully I sound a little better because I've got a mic mounted on a boom now. So we appreciate all that. We didn't expect it. Your all support is great. My big shout out is to the entire Roscoe Turner chapter. Guys, you took a chance. You put yourself out there and you put on an amazing show. It was great from experience-wise. It was great from beginning to end. The folks helping with the vendors were right there and answered any questions we needed, help get us to where we needed to be. The registration officials were great. The judges, huge shout out to the judges. Because when double the number of models show up that you were expecting, and you still manage to get the whole thing judged, awards out, and everybody on their way by 4:00 in the afternoon, you all did a great job.
Oh, I thought we were going to be there till dark.
Oh, I did too. I was prepared for that. And it was like, it not that I minded because I could walk around that dang vendor room all day, but they did a fantastic job. And really, not only were there a lot of models, there were a lot of really good models, and that had to make judging tough. So my hat's off to you, Roscoe Turner. Great show. We will be there next year for sure.
My other shout outs are for Tom Romanowski from our home club, MMCL. Tom, you know what you did. I really appreciate it. Glad to have you listening and glad you like it enough to do what you did. So thank you for that. We'll call him the Polish Tank Fairy.
That's right, man.
All right. And we're going to go back to our special agent 001, Michael Reiki, from Indianapolis for help with the meat patties from Patties of Jamaica. And Dave, I'm so glad you like those as much as I do.
Oh, they are awesome.
I'm 2 for 2. You got you on the gumball head, and I got you on Patties of Jamaica meat patties.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. When you come over to the pool, which got opened today, it's filling as we speak.
It's filling with snow.
Well, not exactly, but it's close. It's going to be 36 degrees tonight, but hopefully it's going to turn around after that. But when you and the brood come over and swim in the pool, I may make some homemade Jamaican meat patties in addition to grilling some jerk chicken and having a buttload of Gumball Head beer. So looking forward to the summer.
All right, Dave. Well, we're at the end finally.
Yep.
And as they say, so many kits,
so little time.
All right.
See you next time,
We'll
Mike.
see you next time, Dave. Maybe another model show, I hope.
Yeah.